We are at the North American Seed Fair, and I thought there was no better place for us to do an interview together in front of what I consider to be your passion area. This is where you belong, right?
Absolutely. I love seed. So, these people go to a lot of work and effort. So it's really great to have a fair like this to showcase some of the amazing seed that is grown in this province.
So how long have you been involved in the North American Seed Fair?
Oh my goodness, that must have been 30 years ago that we used to judge a fair down here. Yeah.
Okay. I have often joked, but it's actually not a joke, that I have never met anyone more passionate about seeds than you. And I would love to hear your origin story. Like, how did you come to love seeds?
Right. Well, I grew up on a dairy farm, and I went to Olds College and took seed technology as a diploma. So a 2-year diploma in that. And that just kind of opened up a whole new world of botany. And I loved botany, and just seed is so interesting because you can never know it all. There's always something fascinating to learn about weed seeds or crop seeds, or, and how to test them and how to grow them and how to get the best success when you're planting seeds. So.
But that was not your path to begin with. Like seed, I think you said to me one time before, seed checking is the career that finds you, or
it finds you. Yeah. So there aren't very many fully accredited seed analysts in the country. So it's not a career that even farm kids really have on the radar.
Yeah.
And I thought I wanted to be in animal science. And so I found out I didn't have quite the stomach for that when I started out down that path. And I was always that kid that was down on the ground looking at weeds, walking with my face looking at plants. And so it became kind of natural for me to gravitate towards seed. And then it's kind of a career that picks you because it's so rare.
Yeah.
You just find those opportunities, and there they are. And you're like, this sounds great. So, yeah.
And you own Seed Check.
Yeah, I own Seed Check with a business partner, and we started that 22 years ago. And so it's been a fun journey for sure. Yeah.
I've heard you describe it before as small, but it does not feel small to me. Like,
right.
There's big energy there.
Yes, sure. I guess, there are seed labs that are only one person, and I am fortunate enough to have 8 colleagues that work with me. And specialize in different areas, and we're a great team. And so, yeah, I guess it's not that small anymore, but yeah.
No, in the 22 years that you've had Seed Check, you've obviously seen some innovations, some changes in the industry. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've had to face, and perhaps some of the biggest successes, highlights?
So, we always have to be ready to flow with the crop kinds that are popular at the time. So there was a time when I looked at canola for 10 hours a day, and now I specialize in reclamation species and forage and lawn and turf. So it really is kind of, you just have to be willing to flex with what there is a need for in the industry. And so that kind of works for us, because we like, even though we're kind of the lab geeks of the botany world, we do like when it changes and flexes, and in the seasonality of it, and the different areas you can learn. So
if I picked up like a handful of seeds, like just random seeds, a whole bunch of seeds, I threw them on the table and I said, Morgan, how many can you identify? How many do you think you could identify like on site?
So when an accredited seed analyst goes for their purity examination, they have to know about 1,000 species, how to tell them apart, their scientific name, and how to classify them in Canada and different countries. But there's always something that's going to stump you, because there are hundreds of thousands of different plant species and varieties and species out there. So there are times that we definitely get stumped, and we have to do a little bit of seed detective work in order to get that, find out what it is. Yeah.
Can you think of a time you were stumped?
Oh my goodness. There have been times that we have, we find something in a seed sample, like we're in the Lethbridge area right now, opuntia or cactus seed that's native to this area, and it gets harvested along with the crop kind. And so you're finding something that's not normally going to be found in a field situation. And so you got to figure out what that is. And yeah.
What the,
Yeah.
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So take me through a typical day in Morgan's lab. What does that look like?
Yeah, in the morning. So the first thing that we do in our lab is take temperatures of germinators. Got someone working on that. And then we have tetrazolium tests, which are a quick viability test.
Okay.
And trucks are waiting to go over the border into the US, or so it's like 24 hours, basically the viability of the seed. So those are the top priority first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And then we're on to counting germination tests and getting those results out. And meanwhile, samples are rolling in the lab. So we're getting the purity checks done so that those seeds can be exported over the border, or the seed cleaning plant needs that result so they know if they can move on to the next lot. So they need to know if it makes standard. So
this is obviously your busy time of year as we're going into planting season. So we appreciate you being here. But what's the down season look for you? How do you?
Yeah, so we start getting busy at harvest and just to do initial checks on seed.
Yeah.
Then as it's cleaned and processed, we get busier and busier and busier. And then at planting time, it kind of drops off. But there are still perennial crops that we're working with. So there's still enough work for fewer people over the summer. But downtime can be doing pedigreed seed crop inspections. We check air spores for the potato industry to help them decide whether they need to spray or not. So there's always something that we can fill in the down season with.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it's nice for us botanists to get outside in our own gardens in the summer and go hiking and look at plants in the mountains and all of that fun stuff.
So are you a gardener as well? You must be a gardener as well.
I am a gardener, yeah.
Okay.
So,
but I'm fascinated by that idea of, because I just discovered hiking this year. So now I'm all about hiking, and I love to go in the spring when the wildflowers come out and that sort of thing. So when you go, do you go to different areas to look for things, or how does that work?
Sure. I mean, on the way down to Lethbridge here, I stopped at a few garden centers on the way, and I was reminded that I want to go to Waterton Park is in this area. It's a fascinating place for wildflowers and that type of thing.
Yeah.
I always like to say that most people have plant blindness. So they just see a shrub and a tree and they see green, or maybe some flowers. But once you start identifying things, it gets addictive, and you want to expand your knowledge and find out what's out there. And it's always so exciting. So.
Okay, so I downloaded one of those cheesy apps where you take a picture of it and it identifies. So I was trying to figure out how much can I trust those apps.
They're pretty good, but I wouldn't completely trust them. Okay. So it's always helpful. And this is when we're trying to identify a seed, you need to have 3 or 4 different sources. So don't just trust one source.
Of course, yeah.
Right? So you find that, you think you've narrowed it down to something, then you can find someone like me and say, what do you think of this? And I may know the plant, or you might find another source on the net. So backing it up with a few different sources is always a good idea. So that you're building your knowledge on facts. Yeah.
We're kind of looking at an unpredictable time for agriculture right now. But if you had to we talked about some advances you've seen in your time there. Can you kind of give us some predictions on what you think is coming down the pipe, like what we should be thinking about, or advancements or technology or innovation you think we might need or see?
Yeah, there's a lot of new technology that can help identify contaminants in a seed lot that are going to be really interesting. One of the things that we've been struggling with is different weather patterns. And so, the last couple of years, drought has really shown seed is a lot smaller.
Yeah.
1,000 seed weights on cereals, for example, are at times half what they used to be. And so when people are figuring out their seed drill rate and their plant population rate, it's a whole different story, right? People used to use bushels for that. Bushels are a volume. So now they just look at things like 1,000 seed weight. And small seed can have really great initial vigor and really great initial germination. It doesn't mean it's poor quality, but it doesn't have quite the energy of seed that has a bigger endosperm and more food source with it. So there's lots of struggles that farmers are going to face as we face different kind of weather patterns for sure. So
one thing, I know we haven't spent a lot of time together, but one of the things that just really resonates from you is this compassion and this passion, like I said earlier, for the industry. I haven't had a chance to come to your lab yet. It is on my list. But if I went there, what do you think I would feel from the staff? Like, how do you think? What kind of vibe? What's unique about Seed Check?
My staff is very much a team. A long time ago, I decided to hire for personality and everything else we learn, and so it seems to work really well. So we're like a family, and we absolute. I would say the word is love. So sowing the seeds of love. That is how we feel about our work, and so it's almost like we speak a different language than everyone else, and we're just like, it's just a wonderful atmosphere. So
I can't wait to come visit you.